History remembers few names with as much awe and reverence as Charlemagne the towering king who united much of medieval Europe and earned the title Father of Europe. Imagine a time when chaos ruled the land, kingdoms clashed endlessly, and cultures seemed destined to remain divided forever. Out of this storm rose a leader who did not just command armies, but forged a vision of unity, faith, and learning that shaped the very foundations of Western civilization. His story is one of war and wisdom, steel and scripture, ambition and legacy. To understand Charlemagne is to understand the bridge between the fall of Rome and the birth of modern Europe. Charlemagne was born on April 2nd, 747. Though the exact place remains debated, some historians suggest Aachen in modern-day Germany, others point to in modern-day Belgium. His full name, Carolus Magnus Charles the Great, was prophetic. He was the son of Pepin the Short, the first king of the Carolingian dynasty, Bertrada of Leon, a woman remembered for her influence and wisdom. From birth, Charlemagne carried immense responsibility. His grandfather was none other than Charles Martel, the famed warrior who halted the Muslim advance into Europe at the Battle of Tours in 732. The young boy thus inherited not only a throne but also a legacy of leadership and defense of Christendom. Charlemagne's childhood prepared him for greatness. Educated in Latin, law, and warfare, he grew into a tall, commanding figure. Like many medieval kings, he combined physical strength with intellectual curiosity. When his father Pepin died in 768, the Frankish kingdom was divided between Charlemagne and his younger brother. Carlomanni division was customary in Frankish succession, but it sowed discord. The two brothers ruled uneasily together, and tensions nearly led to civil war. However, Carloman's sudden death in 771 left Charlemagne sole ruler of the Franks, placing the vast kingdom entirely under his control. Charlemagne's reign was marked by relentless campaigns. He believed his mission was twofold: to expand his kingdom and to spread Christianity. His sword was both a weapon of conquest and a cross of faith. His most famous wars were against the Saxons, a fierce pagan people in what is now northern Germany. For over 30 years, Charlemagne waged intermittent war against them, burning sacred groves, destroying idols, and baptizing thousands, sometimes by force. His campaign was brutal but effective, and by the end, Saxony was firmly part of his empire. Charlemagne also marched into Lombardy, defeating King Desiderius and conquering northern Italy in 774. With this victory, he gained control of the Papal States, strengthening his ties with the Pope and reinforcing his role as defender of the Church. He waged campaigns in Spain, clashing with Muslim forces, though not always successfully. The disastrous Battle of Roncesvalles Pass in 778, immortalized in the epic poem The Song of Roland, showed even Charlemagne was not invincible. Yet every setback only pushed him further. Charlemagne was not only a conqueror, he was a builder. As his kingdom grew, he faced the challenge of uniting diverse peoples: Franks, Lombards, Saxons, and others. His solution was governance rooted in both tradition and innovation. Roy established the Missi Dominici, royal agents who traveled the empire to enforce laws, check on local rulers, and ensure justice. He codified laws, blending tribal customs with Christian principles. Most importantly, he chose Aachen as his capital and built a magnificent palace complex. At its heart was the Palatine Chapel, a masterpiece of Carolingian architecture, still standing today as part of Aachen Cathedral. It became both a spiritual center and a symbol of imperial authority. The defining moment of Charlemagne's life came on Christmas Day, 800. While attending Mass at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, Pope Leo III placed a crown upon his head and proclaimed him Emperor of the Romans. This act shocked Charlemagne. Some accounts suggest he did not expect the coronation, fearing it made him look like the Pope's puppet. Still, the title carried immense power. It revived the idea of a Western Roman Empire, centuries after its collapse. Charlemagne was now more than a king. He was Augustus reborn, a bridge between the ancient Roman world and the medieval Christian order. Charlemagne's vision went beyond conquests and crowns. He understood that true power required knowledge. The early Middle Ages were often called the Dark Ages. But under his reign came a revival of learning known as the Carolingian Renaissance. He gathered scholars from across Europe, the most famous being Alcuin of York, an English monk who reformed education and script. Schools were established in monasteries and cathedrals, literacy spread, and classical texts were copied and preserved. One of the most enduring contributions was the development of Carolingian minuscule, clear uniform script that made reading easier and influenced modern European handwriting. In many ways, we owe our readable letters today to Charlemagne's love of learning. Charlemagne's personal life was as complex as his empire. He married multiple times. Some marriages were political alliances, others ended in annulment. He had numerous children, both legitimate and illegitimate, yet he loved them deeply. He insisted his daughters remain at court rather than marry, leading to rumors and criticism. But it also meant they were close to him. He valued education for his children, ensuring they could read and understand Latin. Despite his many relationships, he remained deeply pious, praying regularly and supporting the church with immense resources. His private life reflected the contradictions of a man who was both deeply human and larger than life. Running an empire that stretched from modern-day France and Germany to parts of Italy and Spain was no easy task. Charlemagne faced revolts, external threats from the Vikings and Muslims, and internal struggles among nobles. He relied on loyalty, efficient administration, and his personal charisma. He traveled constantly across his empire, holding assemblies, hearing grievances, and ensuring his authority was respected. Few rulers before or since matched his hands-on approach. In his later years, Charlemagne grew weary. By 813, sensing his strength fading, he crowned his son Louis the Pious as conqueror. On January 28, 814, Charlemagne died in Aachen at the age of 66. His burial took place in the Palatine Chapel, where his tomb became a sacred site for centuries. Legends later claimed his body was found seated on a throne, crowned and robed like an eternal emperor. Charlemagne's empire did not last long after his death. It was divided among his grandsons in the Treaty of Verdun, 843, laying the foundations for the future nations of France and Germany, yet his impact was permanent. He united much of Europe under one rule, revived the title of Roman Emperor, spread Christianity across vast lands, and ignited a cultural renaissance. To this day, he is remembered as Pater Europae, the father of Europe. Facts about Charlemagne. Charlemagne was unusually tall for his time, over 6 feet, earning him the nickname Charles the Great. He reportedly had a booming voice but could not write properly, despite being literate. He loved swimming and often bathed with friends and courtiers. His favorite food was roast meat, especially venison. He banned trial by ordeal in favor of more rational justice. He wore simple clothes most of the time, preferring function over extravagance. He spoke Latin fluently and understood Greek, though not as well. He once attempted to create a canal linking the Rhine and Danube rivers, an early engineering marvel. Charlemagne's empire is considered the foundation of both France and Germany. His crown later became part of the Holy Roman Empire's regalia, linking him to centuries of European rulers. Charlemagne's story is not just that of a king, but of a vision. He lived in a world of division and chaos, yet he dreamed of unity, faith, and knowledge. He may have wielded the sword with relentless force, but he also nurtured the pen, ensuring wisdom endured. More than 1,000 years after his death, Europe still bears the marks of his reign. Borders shifted, empires rose and fell, yet the idea of a united Christian and educated continent began with him. Charlemagne reminds us that greatness is not measured by power alone, but by the legacy one leaves for future generations. He was and remains truly the Great.